Okay, on the worldview, firstly I must say I'm not addressing a church. I'm not speaking to Christians, a congregation. So then I will not be quoting scriptures and the Bible verses to you, because that's not applicable now. I think I must speak to you as a fellow human being and as a fellow Singaporean. How do we look at it? How do we see it and view it? It's a mono. So therefore I would say, in a global view, being in many nations all these years, I've seen how it is evolving and changing in the way people are looking at sexuality. And what was so immoral today seems to be like moral. And what was so, as we look at it as sin, today is not looked upon in that way. These changes are taking place. But while these changes are taking place, we need to know that the fundamental things that is necessary to keep us in harmony and understanding each other. While we are facing these challenges, these changes, how do we deal with it amicably, peacefully, without looking at hating each other or hate speech or any kind of reaction, building animosity, finally ending up in shootings and killing and all kinds of reaction to each other. I think we've got to find a peaceful way of understanding the evolving changes and how we deal with it, where we can draw our lines and say this is not good for the human race, this is detrimental to us, and we will not allow this to go, because freedom is for everybody to have freedom. Every human being can have their rights of standing for what they are. But if our rights are affecting the society, if our rights affects the future of our generation, then we need to consider, we need to restrict it in a manner that is good for us and for the society and for the whole world. So looking at it, if we have a broad thinking and accommodate each other in harmony, we can find solutions. And I think this is good that Mr. Ravi encourages more of this dialogue so that we can all together speak from our various understanding to find solutions to everything that's evolving right now, every challenge that's before us. Other than keeping to groups and do not want to communicate, like what we've seen some religious people do not want to communicate, or some other LGBT group don't want to communicate, that will not help, because that will end up in more hatred, more in misunderstanding each other. From our Christian point of view, it's very simple. God hates sin, but He loves sinners. And to prove that He loves sinners, He died on the cross. So by dying on the cross for the sins of man shows that He loves man. He loves the human race. He loves the mankind that He created. But He hates sin. Sin is what is detrimental to us, what is bad for us. As parents, we also make restrictive rules to our children when they are young, because we know that's bad for them. And we make rules, but that's not hate, but that's because of love. So anything we speak has to be seen that it's because of love of human race, love of each other, and what we care about human society, that when we speak, it's not hate anymore. It's about love. It's about how we can find solutions for each other. Thank you. Thank you.
No, Robbie actually asked us to share a little bit about our personal review and how we came to that. So I am thinking that I'll be sharing something a little bit more personal with you, and if that's okay, because I think that a lot of our personal stories actually really matter, and ultimately the viewpoints that we hold are tied to real stories, to real lives, and I hope that that will be helpful in some way to a dialogue. I've been a Christian since I was a teenager. I attended a mission school. My parents and family were Christians then. They all are now. We were all going to the same church. My sister was working in church. The interesting thing is that I think for me, realizing the importance of spirituality in my life, of God in my life. Is this on? Is this right? Okay, is this better? Yes, okay. Yeah, so for me, I think realizing the importance of God in my life or spirituality happened when I was a teenager. And that was also a time when I realized that there's something different about me. I realized that maybe I'm different from my friends, and that's when I started to realize my sexuality and my spirituality were both intersecting, at a point in my life where I realized both were important parts of me. If I was authentic about it, those were things I could not deny. Yet, there seemed to be an apparent conflict, because at least, as far as I could hear from society, as far as I could hear from the church around me, it felt like it was sin, like what Pastor Crispus said. And so I often wondered if there was something wrong with me. Perhaps God made a mistake. So it's been a long process for me. I'm a lot older now. And in that process, I think I've moved from the whole spectrum of view. I do appreciate where Pastor Crispus is coming from, where God loves all of us, and God hates sin. And I used to come from that point of view where homosexuality must be sin, that there's something wrong with me. It must be a curse in some way. Along the way, as I went to serve as a missionary, as I went to Bible school, and I went to a very conservative school, so don't worry, no flaming liberal here. But it was actually there that I truly found a lot of the answers for myself in terms of reconciling what the Bible says, reconciling the interpretation of the Bible, and understanding what sin really is. And so it's in that process that I've also come to the point of view that first I thought it was a curse, a sin, something wrong with me. Along the way I thought, okay, maybe it's more like a disability, right? Maybe I'm not created the way that's ideal, but perhaps God, in God's grace, has found a way for me to live and to be. Right? And along the way, as I've gone along, the more I studied Scripture, the more I interacted with people, Christians who are LGBTQ, the more I saw the fruit of the Spirit in all of our lives. When we show love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, all those things, I became more and more convinced, that the God of love, the God I love, who loves me, perhaps that I am who I am, and that this is actually not a curse, not an anomaly, but perhaps it's a gift. That I am made different for a reason, and because I actually realized I'm so different when I was young, it really caused me to delve really deep into understanding what God's love is for me, what the Scripture says. It really helped me to have empathy for others who are different. It deepened me as a human being in many different ways. And so from that perspective, I see how much this has been a gift for me. Okay, so I think that would kind of explain a little bit about my worldview and probably where I'll be coming from, as we talk about the different viewpoints. Yeah.
Okay, hi. Firstly, thanks to everybody for coming today. I'm quite humbled by the turnout, actually. Well, I do have a little confession. I've actually had a Roman Catholic upbringing, so I do understand the perspective when certain religious people, when they talk about the LGBT community. But for myself, I came out to my mom when I was 12. And my entire family, they are all like Roman Catholics, so me being gay was a huge no-no. But my mom was very progressive for her time, and she was a school principal on top of that. She said, well, it's definitely not okay that you're gay, firstly, can you change? And I said, well, I don't think this is something I can change, maybe down the road, but this is who I think I am at a point in time. And she said, okay, well, I still love you, but it's not going to be easy for you. And that has always remained in my mind as I grew up and all. I did turn away from the church because, unfortunately for me, I didn't find the answers that I was seeking with the church. At the time, what I was facing was a lot of judgment. It's wrong, it's sin. You have to change, and this is not right. So I set out on a path whereby I did a lot of silly and like crazy things to try and find myself. And by the time I reached 2013, I think I was quite, at one point in time I was quite an angry, rebellious individual, because all I've heard throughout my life growing up, outside of my family, every time I come out as a gay person, I would face rejection. Like, wow, you're gay because you don't come across as gay. You know, like, what's wrong with you? And after a while, it got tiring, right? So I had to put up this facade of being very confident and all. But of course, deep inside, there's always that nagging self-doubt and insecurity, like, is it really wrong that I'm gay? And I had to meet a lot of people, and fortunately for me, I've met a lot of mentors along the way who have helped me. So in 2013, when I started this confessions page, and it was a fad back then, it started off when I read this newspaper article that was talking about how confession pages were the rage around. It was started by university students, and they were using it to vent and rant, about school life and everything. And being in the media and marketing industry, I was thinking like, hey, that's actually that's a very interesting way to grow a community. How can I adapt this to a community that is not institution-based, but something that's more national-based? And of course, the LGBT community came to mind. From the government point of view, they can't initiate any programs that addresses the issues within the gay community. And within the gay community, we do have issues. We have very deep-rooted issues that needs to be addressed, but we can't get any form of help, we can't get any form of grants from the government. I have worked unofficially with some government agencies, and everything has to be very cloak and dagger because of this law. Everything has to be via back channels. Even when it comes to our professional lives, when it comes to like commercial concerns, things like employment laws, we are not protected and stuff like that. At the end of the day, I really don't see the point of having a law and then not enforcing it, because what kind of precedent does this set? If you have a law and then you say, but you're not going to enforce it, then what's next? Down the road, can we conveniently say that, embezzlement actually is not that much big of a deal, so why don't we not enforce that? Or stuff like that, or like voyeurism, or any other crazy other law that we decide that should not be actively enforced. Then what's the point of like having laws then? And what's the point of like having rules? And I do agree, if we are basing laws based on morals, then there are a lot of other bigger moral issues out there that should be legalized but are not, right? Like adultery was struck down from the penal code. And isn't adultery a greater contribution to the rise of divorces than gay men? I don't believe that gay men make a choice. Same as, okay, LGBT individuals, this is my stand, we don't make a choice to be gay. I mean, why would we make a choice to choose a more difficult life? It doesn't make sense. Just logically, rationally, why would I choose a life whereby at every turn, even when I go downstairs to the hawker center and I order my food, and 30 years later I'm still eating from the same stall. 30 years later the auntie still asks me, where's your girlfriend? Like when you're going to get married? And it's still at the back of my mind going like, I don't think she's ready to know that I'm gay. I think it'll just break her heart. Why would anybody want to live a life like that? So like Section 377A, I really don't see the point of it. If the government insists that it's a law that needs to be kept, then enforce it. Let the world see it for the hypocrisy, for the double standards that it is then by all means, if not, then if you're not going to enforce it, then get rid of it lah. There are other ways. Singaporeans are very pragmatic. We are also very conservative. And to be honest, Pastor, if I were to see two gay men kissing on the street, passionately, deeply, exactly like what you mentioned, I would definitely roll my eyes and say, please bloody hell get a room. Even as a gay man, this is not something that I am comfortable seeing myself. When I see teenagers, and I have seen teenagers making out in a void deck below my block, to me that is wrong. Come on, you've got a lot of years ahead of you to do that. Singapore is not that kind of society, and when we look at gay pride parades, like in the West, where there's a lot of nudity and everything, as a Singaporean, I'm uncomfortable. To me, I think that is not something that, that's not the kind of like society we want. The examples that you mentioned, I do believe that churches have the right to practice their religion as they see fit. If tomorrow Section 377A is struck down, and all of a sudden, by some miraculous means, gay marriage is legal, I don't think it's right to force churches to perform gay marriages. I think that's wrong, because religions have the right to their own set of beliefs. So if as a gay man or as a gay woman and you want to get married to a church and the church doesn't accept you, deal with it lah. You know, find some other religion that will perform that ceremony then. You know, because at the end of the day, that is the religion that it is, right? Same as if we want to be respected for who we are, we have to respect religions and other set of beliefs. We just need to agree to disagree. We need to live side by side. I think this, at the end of the day, comes down to mutual respect, right? You have the right to lead your life, and I have the right to lead mine. I shouldn't be imposing mine on yours, vice versa. You should not be imposing yours on mine. Thank you.
Thanks. You come across as an extremely reasonable man. Are you sure you're gay? That is the rhetoric and the logic that underscores 377A. You see what I'm saying? It's an extension of that logic, you know, that if you're gay, you are wrong, a priori, right? And if you're gay, you're promiscuous, you're immoral, and so on and so forth. It's stacked against you, right? There is a flaw in that logic. And by the way, did you even realize that you said everything goes via the back channel?
Yeah.
Was it pun intended? No pun intended. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So, I couldn't resist that, okay? Is it okay? Freedom of speech? Okay, on a more serious note, right? I wasn't an NMP when this debate happened. But Siu Kam Hong is a dear friend, right? And I also happen to know Teo Siu Min quite well. Both are good human beings, good people, but with different persuasions and strong convictions. The kind of people we need in Singapore. People who have the conviction to stand up and be counted and not fire bullets from the back. And that's wrong, you see. So I think, for me, the debate, the robust debate we saw in 2007 on 377A, it was a robust debate, right? Was very useful in bringing the issue of 377A to the living room. It doesn't matter whether people disagree with it or not. That debate was seminal in the sense that it got people thinking. It got a lot more people thinking outside Parliament. Debating, disagreeing, but that's the kind of discourse that you need to bring the issues such as this to sharp relief. Now, I've been looking at it very, very carefully over the years, and especially in the past week, I've been reading it again. I don't envy the government. I don't envy the government. I'm not saying that the government was right in what they did, but having had a ringside view and having interacted on various occasions, being involved in policy making as well before, I can tell you the responsibility that is on the shoulders of people who have to come up with laws, decide on repealing of laws and so on, is a very heavy thing. Now, I don't believe that this government is necessarily populist in the way they go about making decisions. So I don't believe that this particular, the position that the government took in 377A was to win votes per se. I don't think so. I do believe that it is in their sensibility the right thing to do at that point in time. Because the truth is, the vast majority of Singaporeans, at least in 2007, I believe even today, have a viewpoint that is not sympathetic to LGBT. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that's the reality. The vast majority of Singaporeans are not sympathetic to LGBT. Right? At best, they say live and let live. But live and let live does not necessarily extend to I'm comfortable with 377A being repealed. So we need to look at it. I mean, I don't envy the government, but I made the point to read P.M. Lee Hsien Loong's statement, ministerial statement, Prime Minister's statement in the debate in Parliament at the end of it, I'd like to quote a few parts of his speech, which for me is instructive of a man who is himself struggling with the issue. You see, when the Prime Minister is struggling with the issue, we have reason to be optimistic. It could be a slam dunk, but it wasn't, right? And I've also had interactions with PM on a couple of occasions on this and other issues, and a few other ministers. I can tell you, it is not black and white for them. They struggle with it. And as long as our political leaders are struggling with it, there is hope that we are moving in the right direction. So please, with your permission, I'd just like to quote a couple of parts. He said, we should recognize that homosexuals are part of our society. They are kith and kin. This is not just in Singapore, right? He says, there is a small percentage of people, both male and female, who have homosexual orientations. They include people who are often responsible, invaluable, and highly respected, contributing members of society. I don't think this is rhetoric, I think he really means it. They too must have a place in this society, and they too are entitled to their private lives. We should not make it harder than it already is for them to go out and to live in a society where they are different from most Singaporeans. We have gradually been making progress towards achieving a closer approximation to this balance over the years. I do not think we will ever get a perfect balance, but I think we have a better arrangement now than was the case 10 to 20 years ago. Eventually, we will find a better balance. Right? And for me, this part is important. If we try and force the issue and settle the matter definitively, one way or another, we're never going to reach an agreement within Singapore society. For me, that particular line, the last one, is important. And it goes back to Nick, your point, and I know that several members of the LGBT community feel that it is better for us if the government takes a hardline position on the matter, instead of allowing for what is often referred to in management as strategic ambiguity. So what the government has done is they've left it intentionally ambiguous. I put it to you that it is actually in the longer term advantageous to you, to the LGBT community, when you leave it ambiguous, because if you do not, and the government takes a hardline position, the outcome is non-negotiable. And it's non-negotiable because any softening of the position could be interpreted as a softening of the government and a weakening of the government's position. And this government in particular, I think, takes that very seriously, losing face.